So good morning everyone. So today we are in this video we are going to start chapter number 2 of class 7. The name of the chapter is fraction. So to explain you the concept of fraction, suppose there are 35 students in our class 7. Okay, Austin Justine, and I bought a big chocolate and wanted it to share with you all. So what I did, I divided my chocolate into some parts. Okay, so suppose these are the parts of the chocolate which I have made. How many parts are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and 6, 12. Okay, so I decided to give 12 of you some share of chocolates. Okay, so suppose I gave this share to someone of you. Okay, so what I did, I gave you, out of all the 12 parts, I gave you one part. Okay, so this 1 by 12 is a fraction. It is not a whole number. Okay, it is part of a whole number. So to understand the concept of fraction, we can say a fraction is a part of a whole. What is a fraction? A fraction is a part of the whole. Kiba eta gotte tu bostor kiba pa jodi ame kiba eta part lelo, that will be represented as fraction. Suppose suppose I can draw a circle. Okay, and I have divided into 4 parts. Now I want to color it, so I have colored here this part. So the whole circle was divided into how many parts? Total 4 parts, and out of that 4 part, 1 part is colored. So what part of the circle is colored? 1 by 4 part of the circle is colored, I can say. Okay, so now you have known fractions in your earlier classes also, and you can be considered a little higher class student. So this definition of fraction is not very appropriate for you all. Okay, we will be learning the proper exact definition for you all. So I will be writing it down and you will be noting it. Okay, so I can say fractions are those numbers the number that can be written in P by Q form. P by Q form means the numerator and the denominator form, the numbers that can be written in P by Q form, where P and Q are whole numbers and the total part cannot never be 0. I cannot give you something from 0. Okay, if I have bought a 0 chocolate, so how can I share it with you? Okay, so Q, that is the denominator, can never be 0. At the same time, in fraction I cannot give you anything in negative. Can I give you -1 part of the chocolate or -2 part of the chocolate, or can we color -1 part of the circle? No, it won't be possible in case of fraction. So here the condition says that P and Q should be a whole number. That means P and Q ki hobo pare 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Tumhara loge natural numbers bilak jana chapter number 1 and 3 sa. Okay, so P and Q can be whole number, and the next condition is a Q2 is 0 hobo nwaribo. Such numbers are called fraction. So a fraction has a numerator. So bhai jana numerator hoy or denominator hoy. You all know a fraction has a numerator and a denominator. Numerator and a denominator. Okay, so now what is numerator and what is denominator? There may be a question in your mind, so we'll write the upper part. You can see a fraction is written, suppose 5 by 9. So this upper part is numerator and this lower part is called denominator. the upper part of the fraction is called the numerator, is called the denominator. Okay, so I'm rubbing this. So after this example can be given as, suppose I have a fraction 25 by 29. So this 25 is numerator and this 29 is denominator. Okay, I hope it is clear to you all. Now we will discuss in the next part the types of fractions. Many of you might be knowing the types of fraction. There are proper fractions, improper fraction, mixed fraction, and some more fractions are there in your book. We will be discussing them. Okay, so we'll write the next heading, types of fractions. First one we will write proper fraction. Proper fraction, in proper fraction, the numerator will be smaller and denominator will be greater. Numerator to होरो होगा और denominator to डांगर होगा. Numerator बड़ा होगा और छोटा होगा और denominator बड़ा होगा. Such fractions will be called as proper fraction. So we will be writing it the fraction in which the numerator is smaller than the denominator, in which the numerator is smaller than the denominator, is called a proper fraction. This is called a proper fraction. Example, बहुत examples तुम्हारे लोग मनन भावियो पड़ा. Among those, I'm writing 5 by 9, 20 by 25, 4 by 7, and so on. There will be numerous examples. Next, improper. If proper has numerator smaller than the denominator, improper to ulta hoga. Improper exactly opposite hoga proper ka. So we'll write for improper fraction, the fractions in which the numerator will be greater than the denominator is greater than the denominator is called an improper fraction. Example 12 by 7, you can see numerator is greater and denominator is smaller. 5 by 3, 14 by 9, etc. I hope proper fraction and improper fractions are clear to you all. Let's move to the next type of fraction, that is known as mixed fraction. You know this, you have heard about this fraction also. Okay, mixed fraction will have a whole part and a fractional part. For example, if I want to explain you, suppose I had 3 chocolates. So I give you this chocolate the whole and this one as the whole, and then from the third one I ate half of it and gave half of you. So you got what? One chocolate plus one chocolate plus half chocolate. So overall you got 2 1 by 2 chocolate. 2 chocolate as a whole and half of the third one. So this kind of fraction, this will be written as 2 1 by 2. This kind of fraction will be mixed fraction, which will have a whole part and a fractional part. মানে এটা whole part থাকিব जो তুমি গুটেটো পাবা আৰু এটা fractional part পাব जो তুমি গুটেটোৰ এটা part পাবা. Okay, where you will have a whole part and a fractional part. So let us write mixed fraction. I hope you are getting it all. A fraction which has a whole part and a fractional part is called a mixed fraction. Two 1 by 3, 4 7 by 9, 3 4 by 7, etc. So now once we got mixed fraction and improper fraction, you might know, you might have learned in your earlier classes, but let me explain you. Remember, we can convert improper fraction into mixed fraction, and mixed fraction can be converted into a improper fraction. Improper fraction can be converted into mixed fraction, and mixed fraction can also be converted into improper fraction. We will see this both as an example. So what I said, तुम्हारे के improper fraction of mixed बनाबो पड़ा और mixed of improper बनाबो पड़ा. मतलब आप लोग अगर एक fraction improper है उसको mixed बना सकते हो, और अगर mixed है तो उसको improper भी बना सकते हो. Let me tell you how. Suppose I consider a mixed improper fraction 15 by 7. It means 15 is divided by 7. Okay, the 7 is dividing 15. So in the table of 7, 15 doesn't appear, but of the very smaller number, then 15 is 2 times. I can take 2 times 14, remains 1. You all know that remainder, this denominator never changes. So here denominator is 7 and here it will be 7. Numerator, the remainder will become the numerator, and this 2 will become the whole part. So you can see it was an improper fraction and I converted into a mixed fraction. Likely, if I take an example of a mixed fraction 2 9 by 13, so what I can do is I will multiply 2 into 13 plus the numerator. Denominator into the whole part, 2 into 13, and plus the numerator will give you the numerator of the improper fraction. So I know 13 into 2 is 26, 26 plus 9 is 35. So it will be 35 by 13. I hope it is clear to you also. Here it was a mixed fraction. I converted into improper fraction. Is it clear, all of you? Now let's see some other types of fractions. What are those? So the next type of fraction is decimal fraction. This is new to you. You might have got it in the for the first time. So for decimal fractions, the fractions that has denominator as, I can write 10, 100, 1000, 10,000 and so on, are called decimal fraction. Example, 25 by 10, 125 by 100, 27 by 1000, 139 by 10,000, etc. So it can be 10,000, it can be 1 lakh, it can be 10 lakhs and so on. So the denominator will be either 10 or in terms of powers of 10. 10 of 2 bar multiply kori mein 100 pound, 3 bar multiply kori 1000 pound, 4 bar multiply kori 10,000 pound. 10 ki tumaloke denominator 2 paba. Okay, it will be 10 or the powers of 10. 10 to the power 2, that means 10 into 10, 10 into 10 into 10, 3 bar 10 multiply kori, 4 bar 10 multiply kori, 5 bar, 100 bar 10 ke multiply, denominators will have power. Such fractions will be decimal fraction. Okay. Now let's move to the next type of fraction. In the book it is written as vulgar fraction. So vulgar fraction is very opposite to decimal fraction. Decimal fraction has denominator 10, 100 or powers of 10. So vulgar fraction will have denominator other than 10, 100, 1000, 10,000 and so on. So junbilak fraction decimal fraction no hoy, hebilak ki hobo vulgar fraction. Okay. So the fractions which has denominators other than 10, 100, 1000, 10,000 and so on are called, here it is written as other than, that means denominator is ebilak nohobo. Remember, it is very opposite to decimal fraction. Decimal fraction ebilak denominator hoy, vulgar fraction of ebilak denominator no hoy. Okay, the fractions which has denominator other than, I wrote it very clearly, the denominators other than ebilak no hoy pele baki. Okay, others than this is are called vulgar fraction. So example is very easy. I can write any examples with denominator other than this all. So I can write 10 by 19, 27 by 35, 14 by 21 and so on. Okay. Next comes simple fractions. Simple fraction, it's very easy to understand. Anoka fractions are denominator, numerator, whole numbers hobo. Okay, it can be a vulgar fraction, it can be a decimal fraction too. So it's not necessarily the simple fraction or simple fraction can be a vulgar fraction, can be a decimal fraction, because ki koi se tumalogo denominator, numerator ki hobo lagiba whole numbers hobo lagiba. So 19 is a whole number, 35 is a whole number, 21 is a whole number. At the same time 10, 100, 1000, 10,000 all are whole numbers only. So this vulgar fraction falls into simple fraction, decimal fraction also falls in simple fraction. Okay, so it can be written as the fractions that has numerator and denominator as whole numbers is called a simple fraction. Example, I took one example from here, 10 by 19, 27 by 35. These all are simple fraction also. At the same time, you can see the example in vulgar fraction too. Then 15 by 10, 125 by 10, 1000. These all were examples of decimal fraction. So there is no difference between if I say a simple fraction as vulgar fraction or vulgar fraction as simple fraction, because all the simple fractions, all the vulgar fractions will fall into the category of simple fraction. At the same time, all the decimal fractions will fall into the category of simple fractions. Okay, but all the simple fractions won't be vulgar fractions. Like example, you can see this one. These two are simple fraction but not vulgar fraction. These two are simple fraction but not decimal fraction. Okay, let's see the next one, complex fraction. वीडियो प्ले तो हुआ ना? चेक कर नहीं दिख रहा. 21. So today we will discuss the last topic, one more type of fraction, that is complex fraction. You can see, you can get the little concept from the word complex. Okay, complex means that is not very simple. So in complex fraction, the numerator or denominator or both can be fractions. Okay, হয়তো numerator fraction হবো, নহলে denominator fraction হবো, নহলে দুটাই numerator denominator দুটাই fraction হবো. Such fractions will be complex fraction. So the fraction in which the numerator and the denominator or both are fractions. In which the numerator and the denominator or both, হয়তো numerator নহলে denominator, the numerator or the denominator or both. Okay, হয়তো numerator নহলে denominator নহলে দুটাই, या तो numerator या denominator या फिर दोनों ही fractions होते are fractions, is called a complex fraction. Example, 2 by 5 by 9. This is a fraction. You can see numerator is a fraction. Here next example, 2 by 5 and 9 by 4. Numerator is fraction, denominator is also a fraction. One more example, 9 by 3 by 7. Here you can see denominator is a fraction. I gave you all the three conditions. Numerator can be a fraction, denominator can be a fraction, or both the numerator and the denominator can be a fraction, and such fractions will hence called as complex fractions. I hope the class is fruitful to you. Try to write all the notes I will be giving in the WhatsApp group, and if you have any queries you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.